Greetings, MelVee family. I hope I find you well today. What a day and moment it is that the Lord has given us to sit down for another episode of MelVee Podcast on the Go. If you're new on this family, this platform, please do remember to subscribe. Look for that red button that says subscribe so that next time we are live or we upload a video, you are able to get it. If you've been here before, just a thumbs up like on this video will help us to reach more people. And do remember to also leave a comment, whatever we're going to say here. If you like it, if you have a question, if you want to learn more, just drop us a comment on the comment section below, and we'll be very happy to engage with you further on. On this episode today, on the MelVee on the Go, I have Professor Solomon Lebese. Some of you may not know him, but he is a guru of knowledge, a moving institution. Greetings, Prof, and how are you?
I'm very well, sir.
I've tried my best.
Thank you.
To introduce.
Yes, thank you.
I know
so
I've
much.
missed so many other things.
Yes.
But that as it may. Welcome and thank you so much for making time to be on this podcast.
I appreciate it so much.
We want to talk about something that I think is going to change the world, or is already changing the world. But before we talk about it, because I want our listeners and those who are watching to stay on this and listen to it to the end, let's go back. Way back in time.
Mm-hmm.
When you were born, what did your parents tell you about your life and about who you are and about what you're going to do? I think I have an idea. When they said Solomon, they said you're going to be the wisest man in the world. But tell us about your childhood experiences growing up and what comes to mind to you.
I have three figures that actually impacted my life like you can't believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's my grandmother,
okay,
my mother,
mm-hmm.
and my dad.
Wow.
That's the order of impact.
So the grandmother has the highest.
I spent much more time with her, and she taught me certain things that my dad didn't teach me, nor my mother. Each one had their own role in making a serious impact in my life. Now, you are talking about my childhood days.
Yeah.
This is something that has caught my attention seriously. I was not there. I was there, but not there.
I think I understand what you mean.
Because I don't even know what was going on there.
I remember.
The only thing that I know is I was told. I don't even know when I was born. I was told I was born on such and such a day.
And you even told, this is your mother. You don't know about that.
And
this is your father.
That's what is fascinating.
Wow.
And I said, okay, that means some kind of amnesia. There are things that I don't know. And the things that I know must be told to me.
Wow.
And if I'm told, then it calls for a belief. I must believe that what they're telling me is true.
The truth.
And it has been so because I've registered my birth based on what I was told when I was born, where I was born.
You better believe that.
Yes.
Because now you know nothing about it.
I know nothing. And the only way, I can't even prove it.
Oh my.
I can simply say, this is what I was told, and I believe it. And believing calls for acceptance. I must accept the authority.
You know what you're saying is so revolutionary. That for you to be born in this world and to become who you are, you did not contribute anything. Nothing. And you know what? When I look at that, I remember that everything that I am and I have, I was given. Oh, wow. Wow.
There's nothing of what I have that was actually within.
Oh, wow.
It comes from outside. And those of us who are interested in linguistics, particularly in the dynamics of language, you're talking about input. When you begin to say input, it's something that was put in.
Yes.
From outside.
Yes.
Therefore, I appeared on the scene of action from somewhere. I'm an input from somewhere. And that's why I believe that I came from my parents, because obviously everything has a cause.
Yes.
In life. So I was caused to be.
And so when you were caused to be, you did not contribute.
Nothing.
They decided they want a child. And here you were. And they called you Solomon.
I had a problem with that one too. Whether or not they knew it was me that they're thinking.
Did they even know that you are?
Yes, that's my problem, because it looks like they too were given me
something they don't know.
Yes, and it was given to them from outside, and they said, "Oh, what is this? It's a human being."
Yeah.
And in the realm of the natural, I'm part of the phenomena, part of the myriad objects out there. And because there are so many objects out there, you've got to identify them by labeling them. And when you label each object, you are trying to identify that object's characteristics, its modus operandi, to determine, to identify it and differentiate it from others. That's why I was labeled that. And I said, okay, I wonder, why did you call me Solomon? My dad told me, he says, well, you know what, I'm an avid reader of the scripture, although the man did not even have a second grade education.
Wow.
But a philosopher at core. And he says, I read about Solomon, and it was my desire that you know as much as this man knows or knew.
Wow.
And I said, okay, now give a dog a bad name and hang him. So you give me that name, and to a certain extent, it was a conditioning situation.
Yes.
Where it says, oh, if it's Solomon, I said, now what was that man like? What did he do? How did he do it? Why did he do what he did? I would like to be like him.
Wow.
Then that hint from a name led me to say, it was an ideal setup for me. That's what you must become. And
so here you are. Which country were you born in, and how many are you in that family?
Wow. I'm a South African, born in Limpopo, in a town called Potgietersrus. It was Potgietersrus, now called Mokone. But really, that was the district. But I was born in an area called Zebediela.
All right.
And in that Zebediela area, there was a location in the mountain area called Jubani.
All right.
And they would say, you were born in Jubani's place.
All right.
And I said, now, what is this? Well, I happened to go there.
All right.
To go and see where I was born, where they said I was born. Yeah. And that's where I was born then, there, at a particular place, a particular time, by particular people, my father and my mother, who I believe, I don't know how they met. Yeah.
They never told you?
Well, no, at that time, you could not ask those questions.
It was a different age altogether.
Yes, you couldn't ask those questions.
Yeah.
Where did you meet? How did you meet?
What's your problem? You're disrespecting your father.
Yes. And so that era is a complete different era from today. That's where we interrogate even our fathers. But as I say, my grandmother came in. She was an educator par excellence.
Wow.
Because every night she would call us as children, story hour. to tell us how they grew up.
All right.
What was happening when they grew up, the things she knew, the things they did. And then she had to help us or teach us to recite certain things.
Wow.
And that recitation didn't mean anything to me until now. And what was the recitation? She said, I want to know who you are.
Okay.
I want you to know that, I even sort of wrote it down to make sure that I don't forget this teaching.
Wow.
And she says, you are the son of John.
Son of John.
Who was the son of Class?
Son of Class.
Who was the son of Jubani?
Jubani. All right.
Who was the son of Jeku? Who was the son of Makambaku? Who was the son of Mfunani?
Sure.
Who was the son of Tineneni? Who was the son of Nkongwani? Who was the son of Shihashu? Who was the son of Tinyamati? And that's where it ended. She says, this is the group of people who go for green felt and burn it down.
Wow.
An impossible task. You go for something.
Burning green grass?
Yes. That's what she said. She says,
doing the impossible.
Exactly. Now, that was something else.
That's like 10 generations or 11 generations.
And
right
now
there.
I said, I don't even know how old those timers were. I don't. But the only thing I said, well, let me begin to calculate. I want to see how far back
this thing goes.
I gave each one of them 50 years.
Roughly.
Yeah.
So it could be more.
Yes, definitely more. But it took me back to about 1200 AD.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, is that how deep my roots are?
This is like the time they're coming in from Central Africa.
That to me is...
Actually, no. This is actually, if you go 12th century, they're still in Central Africa.
Yes.
They haven't come here.
Yes.
Oh,
so,
wow.
And that education was in just that recitation mandated by the grandmothers. I want you to memorize this.
Let's honor this grandmother. What was her name?
Hey, we had a nickname for her. We would say she was Jane, but it's not her name. It's a name that has been given.
Yeah.
We would say, how would we put it? Because we, as children, we had a name for her. We call her, to use the English word, velvet, but we said, Kibelebet.
Oh, Kibelebet.
Yes. And it's very slippery.
Difficult to contain.
Yes.
But easy to disrupt as well.
Exactly.
You know,
But an far-seeing old lady.
Wow.
And that's who taught us a lot of things. And each time when we were growing up, when my father was leaving home, going to Joburg to work, she would call all of us. Children, stand here. There was a particular corner where there was a little calabash and certain things that were growing there. And she would now get a cow tail, dip it in water.
All right.
And then she would say, now, we want your father to go well. And she would now swing this and then
spray you.
Yeah, exactly. She says, go well, son. And then spray us too, so that we remember him as he goes. That's who she was. She was more like a bind. She bound us together as one family, that old lady. That's briefly the story.
Yeah. Wow. The velvet, the sprinkler.
Yes.
And so this is like the spiritual side of blessing.
That's right. Yes. She was actually blessing all of us to make sure that we continue to exist meaningfully. And what education did she have? Nothing.
But she knew that someone must be prayed for.
So which means that what we call education today is not in the four wall where we go to and go
Yeah.
to be indoctrinated. And no,
Yeah.
it's reality.
Wow.
She was sharing reality with us. I want you to know who you are. I want you to know
Wow.
where you come from.
Mm.
And that knowledge
Mm-hmm.
has made me who I am.
Wow.
Because the philosophical perspectives that I have
Mm-hmm.
come from right there.
Wow. So you grew up with how many siblings around you?
You know, my father
Mm-hmm.
had a brother,
Mm-hmm.
and an older brother.
Okay.
And he had children. The older brother had children.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just one family, virtually. Even though two fathers, in my father's house
Mm-hmm.
was my brother, my sister, myself,
Mm-hmm.
and 4 sisters behind me. And the last one passed away just after my mother passed away.
Okay.
It's long time, 1954. That's when.
So you were 7,
Yes.
plus the cousins from the uncles.
Yes. And now the ones that I was very, very, very related to was my father's brother's boys, 2 of them.
Okay.
We were about the same age.
All right.
They were one was older,
Uh-huh.
and the other, I think we were a month or so different.
All
apart.
right. All right.
And we actually grew together. We did things together as a
Wow.
trio.
Mm.
And that's another chapter
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
my life,
Yeah.
of those 3.
So I definitely, looking at you right now, I think you were one of the naughtiest ones.
It was the other one, the older one,
Yeah.
who was very, very, he was a maverick. And the second one
Yeah.
was a fighter.
All right.
I was the opposite.
You were the shrewd one, the thinker.
Well,
You're not the one who suggested all the mischief.
No, they were running the show. And they would want me to also fight. That was not my forte.
All right. All right.
And I began, later on, that's when I said, you know what? What does the name Solomon mean?
Mm-hmm.
I did find out. Peaceable.
All right.
And I understood. I don't know how it happened, because I was not a fighter.
Mm.
No.
The name
Castrated
that trait.
And when, I don't know.
Confined you to. Well.
That's why I no longer believe
Yeah.
that it was actually something that I had to consciously pursue.
It just happened, isn't it?
It's an input. And this input dynamic is labeled instinctive.
Mm-hmm.
Something that is instinctive is something that is inborn.
It's in your DNA.
If it is inborn, it was put there for a particular purpose, not actually to manage me. If it's a DNA, I don't manage DNA, it manages me.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
That's why that quality, I reckon, was put there. And that's why I say, why was it put there? And then I was labeled Solomon. What is the correlation here?
For me, I'll tell you this. You are the philosopher. You tell me, you're the thinker here. The role that Adam was given in the Garden of Eden to name all the animals did not end with Adam.
No.
And the power to name things and they become didn't end with Adam. It continued. So when parents name you, in Ndebele we say ukukhulunyelwa, meaning whatever they say, you become what they say. And it's in the naming. So the trait is bound with, it's a spiritual thing. I don't think I fully understand it. The same goes with me.
Well, you know what? You're talking spiritual dynamic. Remember, if you're going to the spiritual platform, we're talking about creation. And the Creator said, let us make men in our own image. And it says, let's make men who will bear the same characteristic, the same traits that we have. We make things.
We create out of nothing.
Yeah. And when you create that thing, you know what it is. And when you
Yeah.
create and you know what it is, and if you don't know what it is, you actually make it what it should be
Yeah.
by naming it. And when you're naming it, you are actually branding it. And as you brand it,
Yeah.
you make it behave according to that brand. And that brand is a
Yeah.
pattern. And that's why we register patterns,
Yeah.
because you're registering a particular formation, a framework that makes that thing operate in certain,
A dimension.
yes.
So they name you Solomon, and then you find yourself not being the fighter. Let's come to your other level of growth and development. You have this thinking that they've inculcated in you, son of. You are son of. Who are you? So you go to school. Tell us about your education and your
But before I
development.
go to school, there's something that rocked my thinking.
Okay.
I'm dealing with this old lady who I call,
The velvet.
yes. And then one day we are going to church. I don't even know how old I was,
Okay.
but I was small, but probably 3, 4, something like that. Here I walk with my dad. We're going to church. And we don't have highways. It was in those
Just byways, the dirt roads.
footpaths.
Footpaths,
Yes.
yes.
We're walking on the footpath and with grass all over. And he says, look down here. I looked, and what did I see? I see ants crossing the footpath.
Ah.
He says, you know what? You told me that you would like to be a minister. Now, look at that now. Look at those ants. Tell me, how would you convert them?
You mean convert them to behave like you?
Remember, I'm a minister. If I'm going to be a minister, I'm converting them to be...
Oh, yes, God's children.
Yes.
Repent and turn
Yes.
from your sins.
How do you convert those things? I looked at that, and already I knew he's asking me for an impossibility. I said, no. I looked at them. I said, first, I have a problem.
Yeah.
I don't even talk to them. Second, if you try to touch them, they run away. And now, how do you now convert them?
Yeah.
It was an assignment that I could not answer until now. But later on, that's when I began to say, okay, I understand what he meant.
There was a bigger story to that
And he
question.
said to me now, you're baffled here. Let me tell you, if you want to convert those things, you must be like them.
Ah.
If you are like them,
Infiltrate them and be inside.
Yeah,
be like one.
Yeah, you'll speak their language. You will live with them. You will travel, walk around like them, and you will be able to communicate. Then you will tell them what you want, and you also know what they want. Then you will be able to share with them the things that you commonly need, and that's how you can help them. But for now, it has been a lifelong assignment. Now I understand. And so even what we are doing now, I know my job is to be able to talk to my fellow human beings and share with them what I see, what I've seen, what makes an impact in my life.
Wow.
And it's a philosophy.
That's what I want us to get into. Because as you get into your education, and here is a challenge. So you have not answered that question.
No, I'm not there yet.
You've only understood it now.
Yes.
How many decades later? 50,
for now,
60 decades later.
Right now, they told me I was born on the 2nd of January, 1941.
Wow.
That now makes me I'm just clocking 82. But I cannot relate to that age when I see some of the people who are my age mates. They look like they're 96, and I'm just a small boy. That's what baffles me.
No, it comes from the velvet.
That's what baffles me. I said, okay.
The velvet instilled it in you. The genes, the DNA. So let's talk about your education. You leave your parents' home to go to school. Tell us about your education years for primary, your
Yeah.
secondary, your university. What knowledge systems did you interact with?
I started the first day of school. I started school when I was 10 years old.
Aibo.
Yes.
10 years
So,
old.
School, when I started, was not important. What was important was taking care of the animals.
All right.
I lived most of my early childhood in the bush. We learned to survive out there in the bush, and learned to live with nothing. And that to me was an education par excellence. The rest of my education was a revision.
An application of some
or
revision of concepts you already know.
Yes, from the bush.
All right.
I learned so much out there. So coming to school, they were teaching me things that I already knew. Because, say for instance, you're talking about the heart. When we slaughter an animal, when I kill a bird, when I skin it, I know exactly what's going on. I see what's in there. So when I come to class, they say, that's a heart. I know that.
You've already been there, you've seen
it. So I don't cram.
Wow.
Anyway, that's primary school, and I was attending at most 3 days a week. And why? Because the other days I'm out with the cattle in the bush.
Is that so? Wow.
And we take care of cattle and so on. But when I reached what we call standard 6, which was, I don't know what they call it, grade 8. I sat for my exam, and I don't know whether I studied or not, but I got a first class pass.
Wow.
And we were 2 in the class that got that. The rest did not make it. But I couldn't understand, why is it so? How did I get here? Those are some of the mysteries that I don't understand.
It's in the name, Solomon. the wisest one.
At that point, to check it, I did not even apply to go to high school somewhere. Somebody did, which tells me I did not apply to be born. It just happened without me.
Yeah, the universe pushed you out.
How I went to school, I did not apply. I was sent to school.
All right.
When I went to secondary school, I didn't apply. Somebody applied. They said, you are going to school such and such a place. I went. And that's where I learned that everything I have, I've received. It comes from somebody, somewhere, outside.
Yes.
Can I claim ownership of anything?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
But I become responsible for what I've been given.
How you use it,
yes,
it's up to you.
Because if it is given me, I become accountable for usage.
Yes. Now, so what are some of the aspirations of those who sent you to school? Well, what were they wishing you to become in life?
Well, when we were, young and going to church, the church had a program. They call it Missionary Volunteer Program. And the Missionary Volunteer Program had a number of...
the MVP.
Yes. And they had the Busy Bee, the Sunbeam, the Friends, the different... And they taught us so much, and I memorized a lot of things, which became my mainstay later on.
Okay.
And through that, I could see that my life has to be bound with the universal one, God.
All right.
And that kept me very close to Him.
So it's something you personally felt, and you said, this is what I think.
Yes. This is what I think. This is what I want to be. And it made me now completely an anomaly, because certain things that I was expected to do, I did not do, because my thinking says that's not the way things should happen. And that's actually what happened.
So apparently you then trained in a number of areas as you went to your university level. I understand you're also a pastor.
Yeah, Hey.
but also a professor. Can you walk us through that? And
I completed high school.
Mhm.
My desire was to be a minister. Then I did theology.
Okay. And where is
Which-
that coming from? That inspiration to want to be a minister?
Well, remember my dad, during we were doing the MV programs, there were missionary stories. People who were missionaries who were making a difference in the lives of other people. I said, that's what I want to be.
All right.
Make a difference in other people's lives.
All right.
And to do that, I must be trained and equipped and skilled to relate to people and help them to be. And I see the ministers who travel distances to go and affect and impact other people. I said, I want to be just that.
Wow.
But then I must be trained. That's why I did theology. But in doing theology, yes.
So which college did you enroll with?
I was at Bethel College, which was the Eastern Cape. Eastern Cape. But from high school, then there were ministers who were trained there, post-JC ministers. But I said, no, that is too low for me. I would like to go on and complete my matric and do a degree.
Okay.
And study theology.
All right.
That's what I did. And in the study of theology, that's when I was able to do Greek. I was able to do a number of the studies that were related to theological studies. But it was a 2-year program.
Okay. So it's not a degree program.
No. Then where do I complete this whole thing? Then there was an opportunity to go to, then we traveled, so to speak, internationally, moving from South Africa to Rhodesia.
Wow, you went to Solusi?
Yes, I went to Solusi. That was 1965
Wow.
to 68. There it was a 3-year program that I had to get into.
Okay.
Which actually means I did about 5 years of training, because 2 years at Bethel,
+3.
now +3.
Wow.
And I had colleagues there that were studying with. We were the first fruits of the degree program. Dr. Wakaba and Dr. Raleigh, and the 3 of us completed together, and we studied. And fortunately, all 3 were able later on to complete a doctorate.
All right.
But not in the same fields.
Okay.
They did their theology right through and to a doctorate level, not me.
What did you do?
When I completed my bachelor's, I said, I worked as a minister.
So you went straight to the thing you've always wanted to do.
But as I was out as a minister, I was involved in more teaching than theological activities, than ministering like a pastor who was preaching and so on. I said, no. How do I now get involved in the teaching activity when I don't have a qualification in teaching? So I shifted from theology. So I went and did a master's. Now, that transition, I did a master's in religious education, trying to marry religion and education together. And that's where I studied integration of faith and learning, how faith and learning and education can be integrated and function effectively. It was the marriage of the two. After I completed my master's in religious education, I realized now I must move away from religion.
Okay.
I did another master's in education.
Oh, now you're majoring into the sector
That's
for
what
education.
I want. Yes, I want this educational. That's where it meant I must qualify as a teacher. Teaching what? Initially, I said, no, I want to teach in the secondary school. But what I saw when I was doing my master's at Andrews University in the US, looking at the educational situation in the school system, it was terrible. The high schools, you could not function effectively there. It was unlike South Africa, where I came from. At one time, during my tenure there, the students would actually lock up a teacher in a closet.
Oh, wow.
And I said, is this what I want to do? No. So I moved away from secondary education to primary education.
Okay.
And then I qualified as a primary school teacher. Little did I know what that was doing. It took me to the foundational levels.
Yes.
And it was there that I learned so much how to teach children. Because, children don't know what doesn't work. So if you tell them, they just do it. And it was there that I learned how to teach children.
All right.
There I developed a philosophy of teaching and called study skills, how to teach, how learners learn.
Yes.
And it's a whole philosophy. Right now, if I were to connect what I learned in primary school, that's what I'm doing for postgraduate. If you teach the postgraduates, you find that there are things they don't know, which they should have known in preschool. And I have to teach the postgraduate what they...
Preschool stuff.
Yes. And what is that? Language, vocabulary, concepts, ideas. And in the preschools, what... my wife is a preschool teacher. She did a master's in early childhood education.
All right.
And their curriculum was, what do you teach those children? About myself. Teach them about who they are.
The same thing.
My grandmother
taught you. Who are you?
Yes. Now, if you want to teach vocabulary, you must teach the children from their world. They must know their world, and you teach them the objects around their world. Don't teach them about things that they cannot relate to. Who are you? What do you have on a shirt? A shirt has buttons as this. They must know that in their house. They must know you are developing vocabulary, which the postgraduates are failing to articulate because they did not learn objects in their little world, which are part of the bigger world.
Yeah.
So they don't know much.
But also I heard you talk about this other concept. We were trying to establish this program at one of our churches back then called Littleton STA program for education and health, what. And you came and you presented this philosophy. So I want you to share a few items around it. You said the UNI Verse is one.
Yes.
And everything is connected to the source. Talk to us about your concept of God and this universe. And what is it that we need to know so that our lives are different and we can have impact? Because I've heard you teach a little bit about it, and I think it's deeper than perhaps we can cover now.
Yes,
but give
definitely.
me a headline of the concept you have of this God who is in everything and is everything and works in all things.
And when you talk about in everything and you're looking everything, those things you're talking about are all related. And they're related in one. You take a tree. It has branches, leaves, fruits, and all of that. But it's
roots.
all one. And roots. It's all one. Now, if that is the case, they must be coming from a source that is also all one.
I want to, maybe for the sake of our viewers, let's just dissect a few of these concepts. And I know it's coming from an institution that's sitting right here, a moving library. We must just unpack all of these things for our viewers out there. But maybe let's focus on two concepts. The concept of God, who is omnipresent, omni this, omni that, and the concept of us as human beings. How do we understand ourselves and this great mudimu?
You see, just like I was born, I was told. I was told who I was. And you're looking at the creation. And the creation, I learned that God said to his teammates, which also tells me that he is a team. He operates in a team. He says, let us make men. That, and is making men is one
Mm.
in our own image. But you don't call him M-E-N.
Mm-hmm.
You call him M-A-N.
Mm.
Man. Oh, if you're making men in your own image and you're not gods,
You are
God.
Yeah, you are God.
And so what you're making must be like you. One, God, man, M-A-N-G-O-D, without an S.
Mm.
So you must be one. How are you one? Then I look at the tree.
Mm-hmm.
We don't say trees when I look at the tree. See one tree.
Though it's got 5, 10, 15, 20 branches.
Hey, branches, leaves, all sorts of...
The bark.
Yes, it's a whole world of things. All are connected into one. And in a sense, that oneness is a pattern that I don't see in one thing. It's in everything.
Wow.
Which is a replica of the DNA from which we
This thing came
emanated.
from.
So if he so, and he says, let us, it means there is more than one.
Mm.
But that more than one is one. Now, let's look at that one. How is it? I don't understand it. I don't know where it comes from, just like I don't know how my father became who he is and my mother became who, but I know I came from them. I must believe. And now, these three, when did they begin? They are eternal. And something that is eternal has no beginning, has no end. And it also says those three are omnipotent. It means they are all powerful. There is nothing they can't do. And then they are also omnipresent. And that concept of omni, it means it's everywhere, it's everything. So which means that these three are everything.
So when they say omnipresent, it means they don't even live to arrive.
That's why later on, when they were talking, Moses wanted to know, tell me, God, you are telling me I must go and deliver these people. What must I say? Who sent me? He says, go and tell them, I am. That I am is an indicator of present, continuous existence. This one who is. There's never a time when he was not. And there is never a time when he will not be.
Sure.
That's why he says, I am. And that's in the linguistic jargon.
Yeah.
Something that is present, continuous. It is the future. And that future is now. And that now, I can't figure it out because it must be coming from somewhere in the past. But there is no past. If there is no past,
there's no present.
There's no present and there's no future, but he's there. Now, that's the dynamic that I think I must live to grasp. Infinity. And
that's why you haven't been able to answer the question. How do I go and evangelize those ends?
Yes.
Only him can answer that one, I think.
Yes, and right now, even if you had to answer it now, it will be meaningless to me because I'm not in the same wavelength where he is. And meaning is conceived in context.
Yes.
And if I'm out of that context,
his context,
whatever context there is, that's why parents will never tell you how you were born. They even will not tell you that we conceived you. They said, no, you're not ready. You'll understand it later on. Because the context now, I'm not ready to grapple with that reality now. It is later on that will make sense. So they won't tell me until it is time. Everything is framed in time. Now, the three are one. And they say they're omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. They know everything. And they say, let us make men like us. And they made men one, Adam. How? They make one. But he goes on, he says, now, Adam, let me tell you what. There is something not right here. Now, if you made me and you knew something was not right, why didn't you make it right?
Was it a mistake you was making?
He says, no, this is the reality where we live.
Yeah.
You can't live alone. You must be related to others and become one. But this is the thing. I'm going to make one like you, but suitable to you. But when he made that one, was not a replica of Adam. It was the opposite of Adam. And he says, he did not name that object. It was Adam who named this. This is woman. Why?
She came out.
Adam was explaining why she's labeled that way. Because she came out. She's part of me.
Yeah.
And if he's part of me, that is that DNA of oneness. Is emanating, coming out.
Yeah.
And coming out is an extension of who I am. And that's why men, Adam, even Eve was also man. But to differentiate the two men, what do? You must label them differently. This one that has just followed me, Adam, put a prefix, W-O.
Okay.
To differentiate him from this one, M-A-N.
Men.
Yeah. And you say, okay, this one is woman. Oh, okay. But no, I don't like that name. Why don't we say, Adam, you are male. M-A-L-E. What about this one? The only way you can differentiate this is a male too.
You just have to put a prefix.
A prefix. A female and says, wow. But that labeling is a descriptor of what the object does.
Yes.
The labeling.
It denotes function.
Exactly. In the same way that my name, when they said Solomon, I said, no, what is my function? What is that label telling me? Yes, what I must do, what I must be. Now, this one is a female. Okay, men, yes, I have no problem with men. Yes, that's who we are. But this one, F-E, is a feather enhanced male.
I like that. F-E.
Yes, feather enhanced male. It's a female. And why so? When Adam was tempted, the demon knew where the skill was. He did not go to Adam. No, you are missing the mark. Go to the enhanced male.
All right.
That enhanced male, God says, I'm going to make you a helper. So the demon knew that the helper is so skilled, better than the helpless. And Adam was the helpless because he couldn't even live alone. He needed somebody to complement him and help him. So the demon says, let me go and talk to the skilled person. And did Adam negotiate with Eve when she was giving him the fruit? No.
We're not even told, which means whatever happened there was nothing to write home about.
But it was powerful. It told me who Adam was. Adam knew that this object came from the source of the Creator, from the hands of the Creator. And he believed in the Creator so much that whatever she gave him, he did not question. He believed in the giver. That's why Adam is going to be the first Adam and Jesus the second Adam.
Wow.
Because he believed in the giver. He didn't question the giver. How do I know he didn't question the giver?
Yeah.
When God says, now, tell me, why did you do this? He says, you know what?
The woman you gave me.
Not just the woman.
Yeah.
The woman, you. You gave me. Do you think I should?
Gave me.
You think I should refuse what you give?
Oh wow!
Do you think when she gives, you said you're going to give me a helper, and if you give me this one and this one gives me, must I doubt the gift?
Oh,
you are responsible. I accept the gift that comes from you. And when I accept the gift that comes from you, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But the Creator had known that this would happen. And he had already made a provision for that. This mess up, somebody must pay for. And he says, don't worry. Adam, the mess you made is paid for. I paid for it myself.
Wow.
Because the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world did that before you came into the being. It's taken care of. Don't worry. Now we're just running the process, but you're part of me.
Yes, I'll never throw you away.
No, you're part of me.
So we are part of God in terms of his omnipresence. God has given us presence to have dominion, to rule, to run the planet, to manage it on his behalf. And he desires that we be present with him all the time. Now, one thing I've always been fascinated by now is the fact that I like the FE, enhanced. You said FE means feather enhanced male. The record says we came from the dust. Adam was formed from the dust. But Eve came from a rib.
Yes.
If you look at these two raw materials, you talked about inputs.
Input.
Who had a better input?
Well, we will say it's a comparative issue. You say who's better. Yeah. How do we know what is better? The raw material, the real, the essence.
Yeah.
The Adam, Eve was the secondary material.
Okay.
That was the raw.
So Adam stuff. Came from the raw stuff.
Yes, the real stuff.
But Eve comes from a further refined product.
Yeah, the refined. You're talking well, refined. Which
your
when
DNA
it came out,
stays in your bones.
It had to be refined because it was not okay. Refined. But let me tell about this very Eve. It's female, but man, it's a woman. That woman is the only man. Is WO, a well-organized man.
I like that.
Look at the homes that we have.
It's almost like we've surrendered the homes to them.
Exactly. But the Creator said, you know what? I'm telling you something. Let me tell you, this woman, so skilled that even the children that they were going to raise, you, Adam, will not take care of them. You are not skilled to take care of a crowd of little things. It is only the competent one who is able to take care of the crowd, and you must go. Leave the competent one to take care of the crowd. That's why we even talk about the language. We don't say men language, we say mother tongue.
They even take the language and give it to the kids. Oh, Lord.
That's where the competency is.
I mean, I'm just looking back at what you said earlier on. Even in the top 3 people who impacted you, the first 2
were women.
These well-organized men.
Exactly. My father came later.
Yeah. And they spent more time with you and taught you who you are. And so may the Lord bless those women. I want us to bring this to a close for now.
Yeah.
I know there's much more we could have delved into. And I want to ask you some personal questions.
Yes.
So put on your mental aptitude here. You can explain, but a short, quick answer would do. What's your favorite food?
What?
Your favorite food.
My favorite food? It's... actually, what I grew on. Maize. Pap. And even today, I have to eat pap on a regular basis. My body seems to be accustomed to that. Pap and vegetables. We call moroho.
Yeah.
That's what I live on.
Wow. All right. Simple stuff. Now, tell me about your greatest joy. No, maybe let me save that one for later. Greatest joy. Talk about the worst nightmare. The worst scenario you say in your life, this has been a nightmare, or this is a nightmare for me.
You know what? I grew up. And with this, when as I grew up, and my mother was very, very, very close to me, there were certain things that were happening to me that I could not understand. I call them the nightmare because they were happening at night. Why? I remember one night specifically. We had our evening worship. I went to my room to sleep, and I got into bed, and we were using candles. I had my candle light on, and I prayed and turned the candle off. And there was something that I could never do, is when I sleep, cover my head with my blankets. Never. But as soon as I turned the light off and I put my head to the pillow, something happened that became a nightmare. I had a tap on my face. And having lived in the bush, lived out there in the world, it was not a bother.
Okay.
To me, it was ordinary. But when it did this, I said, now what's going on? And then I pulled my blanket over my head. And when I did that, something else happened. Whatever it was, got over and tried to strangle me.
Wow.
Sit on my blanket, and then, now, what do I do? I jumped and jumped, but I couldn't get this thing off and I didn't know what it was. And I tried to shout, I couldn't shout. And eventually, the only thing I said, Lord, help me.
Wow.
And when I did that, this thing jumped off. My window was closed. And then when I open up, I see this thing going through the cracks of the window out. That was my nightmare.
Oh, wow.
And that thing dogged my step for many years.
Oh, wow.
And finally, many years later, in the early 70s, it was no longer just a thing.
A strange thing.
No. We were in a meeting, big meeting, and I was listening to a preacher out there. But suddenly when I turned away from this I saw in the night, I was dreaming, or at night, night vision, so to call. Hearing this speaker speaking, and I'm watching. But when I turned around, I saw a figure up there, higher up. And the figure was not worried about what was going on here. The figure was focused on me, looking at me intently. And when I looked at that figure, I knew who he was. And then suddenly, that being started walking gradually towards me, ignoring the crowd.
Wow.
Walked straight to me. And the only thing that I had in my hand was the Bible. And I knew who he was. One of the most handsome men I've ever seen. Very handsome, well dressed up, coming to me. But as he approached me, that image changed completely. He was not that handsome man that I saw. And now he wanted to grab me. And when he wanted to grab me, I knew that I was powerless.
All right.
The only thing that I did is to take that book that I had, I called the Bible, and I hit him with. And as long as I hit him with this thing, it made him impotent.
Okay.
He was helpless. And he left me. But he said, I left. But he came back another time. When he came back another time, same at night, he comes back to me, he says, now, I'll get you. And when he came, now, I was asleep this time in my bed. And it comes to the back of my head and at the back of the bed. And he says, now I have you. He's no longer as beautiful, as handsome as he was initially.
All right.
He was himself, cruel looking and so on. He grabbed me by my legs, just like you hold a chicken with his legs, and with he says, now, and his goal was to hit me back here.
Wow.
To knock me. And when he did, I said, Lord, save me. And he couldn't do anything when I said that.
Wow.
Lord, save me. That was my nightmare, because these things were happening at night.
Wow.
That is one nightmare, and it's a story to tell, and it's intertwined with my whole life. It's a story to tell about my whole life related to this.
I'm almost tempted to ask, how did that impact on you the rest of your life? But I guess we can... That
whole thing, it dates back from my childhood. And when I look back, I see how this thing was coming up in different forms. It's only when it appears in this gentleman-like setup, in a preaching setup, to relate to me. And the only power I had was through this book that immobilized this thing, this being.
Wow.
But it's a story. It's my whole life.
Yes.
Even related to my marriage, it's related there. But we can talk
Another
about
time.
this another time.
Tell me about your greatest joy.
My greatest joy, and it gives me peace, is God. How is it so? As I grew up through life, I realized that I came from somewhere. And the one from whom I came is responsible for who I am. And therefore I don't have to even do what. Even now, as we talk about this thing, I know that when I came here, I had to say, where am I going? What do you want me to say there? So what I'm saying to all of you, I know I'm not talking my own stuff. It is stuff that was that impacted me, and that impact was given me 1958, but I did not know what it meant. It says, what I'm showing you, go and tell my people.
Wow.
And I'm sharing this with you. And there is still much more that I think I can share with all of you in terms of where I come from, where I am, where I'm going. And you also must be where I'm going.
Amen. Amen. We're going to come back to these deep spiritual lives, applications, and knowledge systems. But maybe let me ask you the last question I have. Have you published a book yet?
Yes.
If you were to publish the next one, maybe let's talk about what's the title of the first one?
There are about 6 of them.
Wow.
And the first one was The Master's Vineyard.
Okay.
And the second one was The Study Skills.
All right.
And the third one was a philosophy called quantum performance. And after that one, I have Marriage for Keeps.
All right.
It's a book about marriage. And following that is Dynamic Leader, Universal Patterns of Leadership.
All right.
And currently there are several of them that are in the making. And one of them is The Divine Self-Unveiling. How the divinity unveils itself.
Wow.
And it's just about ready to be published.
I was going to ask you what will be the next title to expect from the next book.
That one, my focus now is know nothing but God. And is reinforced by John 17 verse 3. This is life eternal, that they might know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom you have sent. That's the only focus now. Even my lifestyle is to do with nothing else except Him, who is omnipotent, who is omnipresent, who is omniscient, and to know Him gives me tomorrow.
Wow.
And He says to me, hey, I know the plans that I have for you. The plans to prosper you.
Come on now.
And to give you a future. And He knows the prosperity is not my prosperity.
Wow.
It's His prosperity.
Wow.
It's not my future as I visualize it. It's His future as He visualizes. I like it because I'm an educator. And educators develop curriculum.
Yes.
An educator develops expected learning outcomes.
Yeah.
And the educators teach. But the learners don't like what the educator teaches. They don't even like the exam. But the educator sets the exam to say, I want to see at what level you are performing. We call that competency. And he sets an exam for me, which I may not like, but if I go through that examination, he says, the product, yes, the expected outcome, you will be like me. And when you're like me, what more do you need? You are here. You are everywhere. And you know everything because I'm in you. You are in me, and the two of us exist forever.
Amen. Prof, thank you so much. I'm sitting here listening and I'm like, I wish the tape could allow us to go on. But thank you so much and God bless.
You're welcome.
We'll definitely have you back here. There's so much I think we need to discuss and teach and share with our people, because our people perish for lack of knowledge. And you're sitting here 80-something years, a moving institution. God bless you and thank you so much. To our viewers out there, that's all we had for you for today. I think definitely I'm going to get the Prof back in the studio. God bless you. If you're new here, you haven't subscribed yet, may I kindly ask you to subscribe so that next time we upload this podcast, you don't miss out. If you are a member here, leave a comment below. If you have a question, drop the question on the comments below. We'll be very happy to discuss and answer the questions you might have. God bless you and see you on the next episode. Amen.